Hi everybody, welcome to my entry to Psych In The Valleys 300 subs contest entry. Steve asked us to list top 5 Kinks tracks. It's the sort of thing that I try and avoid because it's, can keep me up at night. So the list that I'm going to give you now is what I've come on today. It could change tomorrow. I think my top one will always be the same, but the others can sort of interchange. While I'm doing this, I'm listening to the Animals to get into that 60s beat vibe. So I'll just say that I don't have an awful lot of Kinks material. I've got some compilations and I've got 2 or 3 actual sort of studio albums and a live album. This I think was probably my first introduction to the Kinks. The CD is the kind of thing that most people perhaps will have as an introduction to the Kinks. Okay, so the first album I have by them is the actual first album. I got this a couple of years ago, if I remember rightly. I think I picked it up on a record store day at a place called Kelly's in Cardiff. They had like I don't know, 10% off everything or something. I can't remember that, but this was particularly cheap, so yeah, I grabbed it. My first song that I'm going to list is the number 5. I've put Waterloo Sunset. It's a great song. I really like it, and I think many of these sort of classic songs written by Ray Davies, they really sort of very rich visual songs. His lyrics. And I'm not normally a lyrical person, but the way he uses lyrics paints sort of pictures in your mind, and very cleverly he sort of pairs that up with the music. And I think Waterloo Sunset is a good example of that. You can't help to envision a sunset over Waterloo. Yeah, so that's my number 5. And there are lots of others, Autumn Almanac and songs like that I could sort of put in that place, but just for this list I've chosen Waterloo Sunset. Number 4 I will say is Ape Man. That's quite an interesting song, I think, for me. I can remember particularly one time driving listening to this in the car with the girl that went on to become my wife. I think it was before we were married, and I think it was probably somewhere in Costa Rica or something like that we were driving around, and so she started to pick up on the fluency of the Kinks songs and singles and things like that from this compilation, and she really picked up on this Ape Man. My wife is a sort of an ecologist, and she liked the lyrics, of being an ape man. We think we're so sophisticated and so on, that sort of stuff. So I've got happy memories from that song, Ape Man. So that's my number 4. Next track, or next song I would put in number 3 is Dedicated Follower of Fashion. I'm going to show you some more Kinks records. So this is another album I have by them. A latter one. It's come out in 74? I think this came out 75 maybe. So Dedicated Follower of Fashion. I put that at number 3 as one of my favourite songs because it's a song that whenever I hear it, it always reminds me of my best friend Tim. Tim is the guy who I met in Sweden. I think he moved there about 1 year after I did, Um, and you know, when you're an expat abroad, you kind of cling to people that speak the same language and share the same culture. Tim's maybe a couple of years older than me, but well, we got on quite well, and we both liked rock music, and we both at the time had very long hair, and we sort of, you know, over I guess a period of 20 years or so while I was there, formed a very good friendship, and he even went on to be my best man when I got married to my current wife. But Tim, as lovely as he is a real follower of fashion, and so he's you know, we joke about these types that chuck in their records when CDs come out, or chuck in their CDs when you know, digital files come out and that sort of thing. I've kind of mocked him a little bit for that sort of thing in the past, and if it's yeah, sort of various different hairstyles that become popular and things like that. For footballers and things, he's right on the ball. If it's trendy, he'll get it. I don't know if he ever had one of these sort of big long sort of hipster beards. I wouldn't be at all surprised. That's very much Tim for you. But anyway, so whenever I listen to Dedicated Follower of Fashion, it makes me think of Tim, because he really does. He's almost like a slave to it sometimes. But that's not a negative thing, it's just who he is. I'll show you some more Kinks records. It's a compilation I think I got recently. I've got a pen mark up here. It's on Marble Arch, but it's an old one. It's got sort of tracks from the first couple of 2 or 3 albums, I think, and no more. Good find that was. I didn't pay very much for it, I don't think. And then here is this one. This is one of those really big Ultimate Collection type double albums. Again, very similar to the CD that I showed from the beginning, sort of full of all the sort of classic singles and things like that. This is another record I've spun a lot, and this, with that CD, really did sort of bring me into contact with the Kinks. So my number 2 song on the list is David Watts. Now, I first got to know this song through listening to the Jam album, All Mod Cons. And I remember the Jam, it was a cassette that I had, and I never really paid it much attention. At the breakdown of my first marriage, if anyone's gone through that, you know, you find all of a sudden you've got a lot of time on your hands. So I kind of dove deeply into music and things, and I can remember really getting into the All Mod Cons album by the Jam, and on there's a track, David Watts. I didn't know at the time it was a cover version, because it does sound very much like a Jam song. Eventually, I worked it out, so, and I've always enjoyed that song. I like it. It has memories of sort of being uplifting to me at a time when I was quite down, and starting to sort of remember myself sort of outside of a marriage, finding my independence again, I suppose. It's kind of there's a strong feel to that song, and that always inspired me. I'm going to show you some more Kinks records. So this is Word of Mouth. This is one of the latter Kinks albums. I find that the earlier Kinks albums, the classic ones, you don't see them around very much. I don't anyway. But these latter ones, you know, you can see them around in all places, I think. I must admit, I haven't really sort of spent much time listening to these newer ones. And then I'm going to show Kinks Live The Road. I think, I read somewhere, I think probably on Wikipedia, about how the Kinks, they had almost like a second wave, if you like, with with the mod revival that came about from bands like the Jam, and through that they did a lot of touring. So I think this probably comes off the back of that. My last one I'm going to show is Village Green Preservation Society. Great album. I really like this album. I think most people do. It's for me, it's got a lot of special memories because it was an album I listened to in the last sort of weeks of the job that I had in Sweden at the Swedish Academy of Science. I wasn't particularly very happy there, and I used to have this album on my computer, and I played it quite low down, but I could hear it, and it was sort of kept me company in those times where I was just waiting to finish and waiting to get out of this job and start a new one. So there you go. It's like almost like a good friend, if you like. So my number one song by the Kinks has to be Victoria. I've always liked Victoria. I like the upbeat drive of the song. Like I said, I'm not really a lyrics person, but even through just listening to the melody, you hear snatches of words about the British Empire and the vastness and that. I understand that it's a little bit more cynical than perhaps I'd understood in the beginning. I think he speaks a lot about just admiration of the royalty and that sort of thing. Not that Ray Davies holds those views himself, but the sort of the protagonist, if you like, in the song is talking about how he'd die for his country and Queen and all that sort of stuff. It's a great song. I just like it. I really like it. I've always have done. It's always been my favourite Kinks song. Okay, that's my list. Showing you the records I've got. Thinking actually, through doing this now, I'm thinking about next year, the turn of the year, 2019, about having the Kinks perhaps as one of my New Year's resolutions. So the idea is that I would have this resolution that through January to December next year to acquire the majority of the Kinks studio work and sort of become familiar. Because I mean, although I know all of the singles, like most people do, I don't know their albums, and I think that might be a good thing to do. So I did that with the Beatles way back in 2008. So maybe it's time to do that with the Kinks. All right, thank you very much, everybody. Thanks, Steve, for a great contest. Look out for my next video. Bye.